Now, AliExpress is full of clone watches, you know, the copies of luxury watches that are basically just rebranded. But more recently, I've been doing this search for original designs on AliExpress, the watches that I think might be of more interest to you. And I think I found one potentially here, and one that might be a good option if you've got a slightly larger wrist as well. I know a lot of my favourite watches on this channel are smaller watches, but not today. This one I really feel like has got a good chance of fitting you if you've got a large arm. Now, this one I purchased with my own money. I think it cost me £160 approximately. Probably a tad more with import fees, I can't remember. But at the moment it's currently retailing for about 160, but you can get about £20 off that by using one of the codes on AliExpress. I'll leave a link to it in the video description. And it is a Red Star watch. Now, Red Star, I'm not 100% sure what's going on with Red Star. Now, I know there's some sort of connection to Seagull, not only because this watch has got a Seagull movement inside, Seagull being arguably the world's biggest movement manufacturer to my knowledge, a Chinese brand, but also I keep seeing Seagull watches called Red Star from time to time if they've got that Red Star on the dial. But there definitely seems to be a further connection between the brand. Not sure if this is like a Seagull sub-brand or something. If you know any more details, you have to let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, let's take a look and I'll show you what I spotted. Now, this watch, it just looks very unique. Oh, looks like we've got a bunch of extras in the bag as well. So both a bracelet, which is what the watch is fitted with currently, and you also get a spare strap. Now, this strap has an enormous buckle. Oh my goodness. I think that might be the biggest buckle I've ever seen. I mean, have you ever seen one like this before? I mean, that is just wacky, isn't it? Yeah, not the best look. Don't think that's going to particularly suit the watch, and it's a shame because strap actually doesn't feel awful, and it's quick release too. But yeah, here's the watch itself. Yes, very glad I ordered this one, even if it doesn't fit me. Now, I mentioned a few videos ago I was in my brown era, and this is probably why. There've just been a bunch of good-looking brown watches recently, and look at the dial on that. Actually, a little bit darker in person. Yeah, it's more like that. It's like a deep caramel colour. Now, I can't see much of a model name for this one. It seems to just be called the Red Star Bullhead, or in some cases it says Red Star Model 1963. Now, it's clearly not the same design as the regular Seagull 1963, not even close. You can see here it's a bullhead chronograph, so all the operations are done at the top centre there, and it's not in any way close to the same shape. This is rotund, and also from side on, you'll notice it isn't symmetrical. The watch actually gets thicker and bulkier towards the top, which I have seen on a couple of the Citizen bullhead watches, although this doesn't appear to be a copy of any of them. This looks almost entirely original to my knowledge, and I think due to this peculiar shape, despite being super thick, it maybe actually looks a little bit small for a 42mm. Has what looks like a very short lug-to-lug distance. And it's also got some pretty shiny case finishing there. It's majority of this case has a glossy finish to it with just this strip around the edges all in a brushed metal, whereas the remainder is all polished. And the bracelet's quite quirky as well. Now, this one I don't think it's a brand new design or anything, which is the majority of what I cover on this channel is like the new releases if I can. I think this one came out maybe a year or so ago after I ordered it. I just searched it on YouTube basically to see if anyone had covered it and to see if it looked as good in the pictures, and I can confirm it does. There we go, just had a little off-camera wrestling match there, but we're in business. Now, the bracelet is odd. It's like a Jubilee band, but with only one connecting link in the center, so it is extremely flexible and floppy. I'm really not sure how that's going to wear on the wrist. Now, the lug width there, if you did want to change that out, is 18mm, and you could change it, although it might end up looking very skinny compared to the rest of the watch, which I'm assuming is why the strap fans out slightly, makes it look a bit more proportional. Does seem to be solid links, and then the clasp is just like a standard double fold over clasp there, only pressed, not the best quality. And to be honest, that's my kind of overall feel with the watch straight out the gate. I mean, compared to high street watches, it is good quality, but it's definitely not on the same level as some other AliExpress brands I've tried. So for example, more recently tried a Proxima watch, not sure if that video is published yet or not, but that Proxima is considerably higher quality than this for the money. But at the same time, I think this one's arguably better looking. But at least it's got a very unique vibe. Certainly one of the most unique watches on AliExpress. I'll leave a link to this watch in the video description. It's got a glorious brown dial there. Also comes in some other colours too from the looks of this. There's a blue here with an inverted set of subdials, and then like a greeny yellow, which I'm really not sure I'm feeling that one. But the brown has got to be the standout. The brown looks awesome. Not often you get a watch that looks like this at all. And it's kind of odd to look at because it's got this like lower scooped bit at the bottom and then nothing at the top, which I suppose that's so that you have better access to these bits up here, which we'll have a go of now, I guess. Oh, and it's a hand wound movement, so I'll give it a good wind. I mean, that is so smooth and quiet to wind. I second guess myself then. It actually doesn't feel like you're winding a watch, really. There we go. Now I can feel a bit of resistance. Yeah, that is silky, no noise. Far quieter than the Seagull that's in my actual Seagull watch. I'll show you that movement in a minute, but for now, let's stop this and reset it. Boom, that is instant. Wow, so it's a full-on hand-wound mechanical chronograph, which is fantastic. But you can't really get many mechanical movements for this price that are chronographs. That must be where a good portion of the budget's gone with this watch. Certainly looks quite high quality, this. And the bezel has like a shine to it as well. But yeah, under the hood, what have we got here? An ST1901. And we have got a little bit of decoration on there, especially if you're pretty new to watches. These are really quite interesting to look at. All sorts going on in there. Not the most elaborate movement, and really the only mechanical chronograph you can get for this sort of money, or at least that line of chronographs is. It's pretty cool nonetheless. For once, I don't have to worry about the crown width. I can just measure the exact side to side. 42 on the nose. The lug to lug is actually the trickier one this time. Somewhere around 44.7. Almost identical to the width. And thickness, yeah, it is a chunky boy. 14.4 with the crystal, and still thick without it. About 12.8 maybe a bit thinner, maybe 12 mil. And unsurprisingly, this doesn't fit my little meek arm, my 6¼ inch wrist. This watch is definitely best suited, I'd say, to people with a 7-inch or over wrist. Does wear about like a 41, maybe 42 mil watch. Part of that's just due to the thickness. It's not actually super thick, to be honest. Doesn't look as thick when it's on, maybe because the bezel is kind of plunked on the top and because some of it's the crystal, but will be wobbling about a bit too much on smaller arms, this. And there is a bit of a chasm there. It looks like one of the old U-boat bases under the lugs, but it does look pretty impressive, gotta say. If you went to a watch meetup with this on, I think you might get a good few questions asked about it. I think that could probably work reasonably well on the strap, actually. Might not have a taper, but just due to the sheer size of this watch, I think that suits it. Aside from that, we have a 316L stainless steel case, which this does feel like 316L to me. Apparently, the crystal is only mineral with this one, and it's got a blue anti-reflective coating, which is quite visible. You can definitely see a tint of blue there, and it's more of like a boxed crystal, which seems to be the trend at the moment. Bezel there is an aluminium insert, or aluminum, as you Americans say. Super luminous, that's what it also says under the luminescence column. So I guess we'll have to give that a try as well. I'm really not sure what to expect with this one under low light. I can't remember the Seagull 1963, the regular one. Does that even have lume on it? So this looks just more like the typical C3 kind of lume with that green tint. And it's been about 20-30 seconds now, and it's definitely faded a bit, especially that on the hands, actually. Usually it's the inverse of this. Usually the hands is where you'd really want it to last the best, not the markers. But the hands seem to have dimmed very quickly, which is definitely a bit of a shame, because the remaining markers are certainly on par with your more typical brands like Citizen and that. So there we go, a pretty unique AliExpress chronograph. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Am I mad for buying this one or not? I certainly think it's more of a refreshing choice than the sea of Speedmaster and Daytona clones.